Reinforcements are coming for the Seattle Mariners, and probably sooner rather than later. There's a chance that reinforcements may be coming in 3 different facets here in the next month, including JP Crawford, Jared Kelenic, and one other way. Jerry Dipoto gave some interesting injury updates on JP and Jared Kelenic, and it would be really nice to get these guys back, right? Because obviously the defense over at shortstop with Caballero has been a little rough. He's hit pretty well, but the defense has just been not there. Now, there's a chance that by the time you're watching this video, JP is already back. I wouldn't bank on it, however, and there's a chance he comes back today, but let's listen to what Jerry Dipoto said about JP Crawford.
You know, we're likely, if he continues to improve the way he has, we're likely to see him go out. Because it's been long enough, we're going to have him go out and play at least one rehab game somewhere in the Northwest. It's probably going to be at Everett sometime, Friday, Saturday, or this weekend, with the hope that he can join us either at the end of the trip through Houston or when we get to Chicago. But, again, that is contingent on his continued improvement.
Again, by the time you're watching this, there's a good chance that JP already went on that rehab assignment, and if everything goes well, if he's feeling all right, then he would be back for the Seattle Mariners, back at the top of that lineup, which I think is the perfect spot for him. He is the catalyst for this team, the captain, the guy who controls everything out there on the field. You're really missing JP if you're the Mariners right now. Thankfully, this happened towards a lighter part of their schedule. Would have been nice to have him in Houston, but nonetheless, JP Crawford is coming back for the Mariners sooner rather than later. JP Crawford is super important to the success of this team, and they're winning, they're dancing, and repeating, just like this t-shirt from Breaking T. Be sure to snag this one while you still can. This is their newest shirt. We have the link in the description down below. I'm recording this video on Saturday. Again, when you're watching this, he might be back already. Now, Jared Kelenic is a different story, however. JP is coming back soon. Jared Kelenic might not be coming back until September. Here is what Jerry Dipoto had to say about Kelenic and his rehab.
Oh, yeah, he was let out of his boot yesterday, actually, so he's going to slowly get back into baseball activity. He's been throwing throughout with a boot on, but he's now being released to go do a little bit more aggressive baseball activity. And, the rehab process we knew was going to take us into September. That hasn't changed, but what day in September, I don't know, but it is, we are optimistic that he is going to contribute before the year's done.
The good news is that Jared Kelenic is out of his walking boot and he's getting ready to ramp up baseball activity. The Mariners have missed Jared Kelenic, sure, but with that being said, what can you really expect out of Jared Kelenic the rest of the way? Because he's been so hit or miss this year. Kelenic's season has really been hung up on that March and April that he had, where he hit .308 with 7 of his home runs. Now in June, Kelenic in 22 games hit .173, hitting only 1 home run, striking out 34 times with 15 walks. He did rebound in July, however, where he hit .268 in 15 games. No home runs in those 15 games, but 17 strikeouts to 2 walks. Obviously, July is kind of when it all went down, when he lost a fight with a water cooler. Are we going to get June Jared Kelenic back, or are we going to get maybe May-ish Jared Kelenic hitting .250 with 3 home runs, 13 runs, and 12 RBI? Still 39 strikeouts, but May Jared Kelenic was a lot better than June Jared Kelenic. And in defense of the guys the Mariners have put out there, Dom Canzone and Cade Marlowe, they've both played okay. They have not been great, but they have at least made left field not a black hole for the Seattle Mariners. And we've seen Jose Caballero and Josh Rojas over at second base. When JP comes back, I'm assuming that's what it's going to be like again. So Dylan Moore and Cade Marlowe out in left field would kind of be platooning out there. I don't know what you really want to see out of Jared. Obviously, he's been a lot better against lefties this year, hitting .284 versus lefties with 4 of his 11 home runs. He has 7 home runs versus righties, but he's only hitting .242. Fact of the matter is, Jared Kelenic, I don't know what kind of role he plays when he comes back. I'm sure you give him that starting job back, and you probably designate like Mike Ford for assignment. Mike Ford's a guy that the lefty power that he has, it just isn't really showing out anymore like it was earlier on in the season. Jared Kelenic can fill that role as a better athlete. So assuming that's the case, Jerry Dipoto did say that Kelenic could come back hopefully early September for a rehab assignment. So maybe the 10th of September is kind of what I'm looking at right now. Again, who knows really what's going to come out of that. Probably after the Mets series, unfortunately. I'd love to see him go in and play against the New York Mets, but, that's probably not going to happen, just like it didn't happen last year. With that being said, Bryan Woo is another person who is slowly but surely making their rehab, and I did not get a clip of Jerry talking about Bryan Woo's rehab, but we have heard they're going to be going to a 6-man rotation when Bryan Woo comes back. It sounds like he should be back sometime this week. I'm not sure if that's when they get back home after the White Sox series or how that's going to work. More than likely, I would assume that's the case. And ideally, this was just a fake IL stint for Bryan Woo, right? He's obviously at his career high in innings pitched, so hopefully his forearm strain was nothing more than just a, hey, your forearm was a little tight because you slept on it this morning. We'll put you on the IL. And it's been talked about ad nauseum what it would be like to have a 6-man rotation and the pros and cons of that. The pros are everyone's a little bit more rested going into October. Of course, right now, there's no guarantee that the Mariners are going to make the playoffs. So you would think that you would want George Kirby and Luis Castillo going every 5th day instead of every 6th day. But it doesn't sound like this is going to be a conventional 6-man rotation. MLB trade rumors said Dipoto did mention that the team might piggyback Woo and Hancock down the stretch after trying out a 6-man rotation for about a week or two. So there is a chance that we see the Mariners use this 6-man rotation 1 or 2 times through the order, and then instead starting Bryan Woo, having him pitch 2-3 innings, and then having Emerson Hancock pitch behind him. A, that's going to give the bullpen a little bit of a rest. But B, you're also going to be keeping Emerson Hancock and Bryan Woo's innings down as they both reach their career highs. Obviously, the other 4 in the rotation, they are full go. Even Bryce Miller, who you very easily could say needs some sort of innings limit, he should be full go the rest of the year. And if the Mariners make it to the playoffs, there's a pretty dang decent chance that you see those 4, the Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, you see those 4 in a playoff series. You could put Bryan Woo in the bullpen in that scenario, and I think his stuff would play out pretty well out of the bullpen, but obviously you want him to be a starter for you long term. Bryan Woo could be in the bullpen and get some innings late in a game, for example. If you need a guy, just give you some length. And in my opinion, Emerson Hancock has been a lot better than his numbers have shown. Yeah, he gave up a grand slam to Bobby Witt Jr., but he should have never been in that scenario in the first place if it wasn't for an error here and error there. He's been just fine for the Mariners, in my opinion, and I think that you could even use him until you get to September. Because remember, when you get to September, you get the expanded rosters, which actually are just adding 2 more roster spots now instead of the old 40-man roster. You now get to add 2 spots. That means those 2 spots can literally be Jared Kelenic and Bryan Woo. If Kelenic's not going to be back until, early to mid-September anyway, you may as well just use that spot for him. And then if you just wait another start, maybe 2 for Bryan Woo, if you want to give him a little bit of extra rest just to really, really work on those innings, then you may not have to go to a 6-man rotation. Maybe one of either him or Hancock slots in the bullpen. Then you could just add him right back instead of having to send somebody down. But there's also the opportunity to bring up like a Jake Shiner if you want to down the stretch. And of course, injuries, if long as nothing happens, you should be all right not needing to bring up Jake Shiner. But you could if you wanted to get rid of Mike Ford. There's a lot of moving parts for the Mariners over the next few weeks, but the one person who has really been the steadying force for them has been Julio Rodriguez lately, and Joe made a video about Julio on the screen now. I want you to check that one out. Appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.